Easy always said. I could feel a tickle in the astral realm. There's some feedback on the line. Hey. Better know where the voice is coming from. Heart and soul say, grandmother, grandfather on the way. No dark druid gonna take us away. Greedy on the land, no. Laughing at the torture of the common man. Put him in a trap and turn him into an animal. You're laughing at them, say, easy on the breeze. It's a trap if you know. It's a trap if you know. Freedom in the folk soul. Freedom in the folk soul. Say, yeah. You're like a freak in a freak show, baby, come on. Think I'd let that fun go too. Freedom on the land, said, easy on the way, you know, easy on the way. Sanctuary, sanctuary on the way, you know it's on the way. If you circle around the state, stand, heart's flame, you know, heart's flame, you know, said, you know, it's on the way. All right, time to read. Love mixing music and live reading and doing both. Yes. It's fun. All right. No competition, just adding to the pool of creative energy. Yes. Folk soul memory. even if it's reading a story. At least it's based in that. Okay. Chapter 3, Sanctuary. The hunting party had now reached the hill, started up the slope toward the fortress. Upon its crest, its outer wall was twice the height of a man and constructed of thick logs set upright in a ring of piled earth and stone. Outside this wall, there lay a broad, deep fosse. These defenses to come against the wall would place, deep fosse itself, encircled by yet another rampart of earth. Crossing these defenses to come against the wall would place any would-be attacker in a very perilous position indeed. There was only one place where the fortress might be entered. A bridge of planks spanned the ditch to a wide gateway with stout doors of heavy timber. These doors stood open now, giving the approaching party a view of the country yard beyond. In the center of it could be glimpsed a portion of an imposing structure. It was circular and well over 2 stories in height. Its peaked roof was thatched, and curved walls were smooth, daubed, and washed with lime to a startling whiteness. As where the outer palisades, it was this that was causing the fortress to glow in the red gold tinging of the evening sun. Finn's group reached the outer embankment and circled it to the bridge. They clattered across the planking and passed through the gateway into the yard. There were a number of people busy at a variety of domestic tasks. 2 women were drawing water from a well just within the gates and pouring it from their buckets into a long basin of white stone. Within a lean-to structure set against the inside of the stockade, a carpenter repaired the shattered spoke of a cartwheel, while keeping a watchful eye on the progress of a young apprentice who most delicately smoothed the slender bowl of a casting spear. Nearby them in the open, a smith labored beside his glowing forge, hammering out a slim, graceful, tulip-bladed sword on his anvil. Close beside the large central building, the boar killed by the hunting party was already laid out upon a chopping block, which had once been thick but now was carved to a deep valley in the center by long use. A pair of men in trousers and leather aprons were at the butchering of it, while 2 of the hunters who had strained to carry it back watched with a naturally proprietary air. Not far from them, on a square field of beaten earth, a number of boys were playing a most furious game of hurley, bashing the wooden ball about with their curved sticks, taking swings at one another as much as at the ball. The sounds of the clacking sticks and the grunts of pain were a continuous accompaniment to the play. While many of these people glanced around to note the entrance of Finn's party, there was no show of excitement. The return of the hunters was evidently accepted as a quite ordinary event. The ruddy man took his pack of hounds on across the yard toward a line of wooden stable sheds. Finn's other men made directly for the stone basin and began to thoroughly wash the grime and sweat of their day's labor from them. But Finn himself, in company with Cowlight, did not follow them. Those two had stopped upon the threshold and were staring back across the bridge. At its far end, still closely flanked by its two guarding hounds, stood the little fawn. The creature was gazing into the yard of the fortress with what could only be called uncertainty in its dark eyes. "I can't believe it followed us all the way here," Cowlight said in a wondering tone. "Do you think it's meaning to come in?" "I don't know," said Finn. "Seems a bit afraid now." "Then chase it off," Cowlight said with sudden sharpness. "It won't take but a shout and a hop towards it to make it bolt." "Why so savage?" Finn asked, giving his friend a puzzled look. "You've been strange about it from the first." "There's just something wrong in it," the other said in a vague way, shaking his head irritably. "I don't know. I just feel a great trouble in this fawn." "Trouble?" Finn repeated, smiling. "In this fierce beast. Come along now, Finn," Cowlight shot back. "Don't be trying that again. You know as well as I there could be magic working here, and danger too. For all its innocent look, we've met such things before. Be wary." "All right then," Finn agreed. "I'll grant there may be magic here. I may even have a feeling of it myself. But when has fear of that ever made us turn away? If there is magic, why, it only gives some adventure to this. And magic or not, the fawn has followed us here for some reason of its own. If I don't soon discover what it is, I'll go mad from wondering about it." He stepped back through the gateway onto the bridge, leaving Cowlight to look after him misgivingly. The fawn retreated a step, as if expecting that he might be planning an attack. As before, the hounds moved forward protectively. "Easy, lads," Finn told them. "I said I meant no harm. Only mean to welcome your charge to what are done." He met the glistening gaze of the nervous animal. His voice took on a gentle and reassuring tone. "Little fawn, if it's my own permission that you wish to enter Almhuin, then I grant it to you. Enter here safely, if you will." He stepped aside, sweeping back a hand in gracious gesture of welcome. The fawn hesitated a moment longer, looking from Finn to open gateway. Then, slowly it began to walk across, flanked closely by the watching, wary hounds within the yard. Finn's men had taken note of this peculiar little scene and had given over their washing to observe it more closely. This had caused the others about in the yard to cease their own activities and become curious onlookers as well. For some unaccountable reason, a strange air of expectation descended upon the now hushed yard as the fawn's tiny hooves tapped lightly across the planks. Just outside the gateway, it paused once again. Head thrust forward, eyes scanning the interior searchingly. Its frail body was tense and trembling. But finally it moved on, taking the first tentative step across the threshold. When the tip of its outthrust forefoot penetrated the invisible boundary that separated inside from outside, a shimmering silver glow appeared around it. As the fawn stepped on, drawing the rest of its form across, it was slowly enveloped by the light, as if it were passing through a screen that was charging it with energy, or diving through a surface into some liquid that engulfed it. Until once within the gates, it was totally encased in a shimmering aura. It stopped, standing stiffly. On the spindly legs, body trembling, quite violently now. As the fascinated watchers stared, the glow began slowly to intensify, swelling outward, forming a brilliant, translucent chrysalis, within which only the dim outline of the creature could be seen. "There is magic in this, Cowlight," Finn said excitedly. "Look there! It's shape-shifting. Careful," warned Cowlight, stepping back, lifting his spear defensively. "It could become anything." Within the pod, there was clearly something unusual happening. The shadowy form was growing, stretching in a most grotesque way, as if great forces were jerking it, twisting it, distorting it in ways that would have to cause immense pain to anything shaped like the little fawn. But these forces were not destructive. They seemed instead to be succeeding in altering the creature's shape. As the form grew larger, it also rose upright, appearing to stand upon its hind legs. The glow about it now began to fade. The concealing shell of silver began to melt away from about the encased form. As ice would melt before an intense heat, in moments the chrysalis was gone, revealing what had been newly formed within it. It was a young woman. Okay, I'm going to pause for a drink since I felt my voice go. Okay. I knew this would be good. That's why I wanted to read this. I've never read this. That's what I'm doing. Doing it live. It's awesome. Okay. It was a young woman who stood before the astonished gathering. She was very young and fair, with a wealth of unbound golden hair cascading about her shoulders. Her slender, willowy form was clad in a simple gown of white linen, but there was no time for the watchers to form more detailed an impression of her. For as the glow faded, it seemed to release some supporting hold from her. Her body sagged as if drained of all of its strength. She swayed, clearly ready to collapse. Her eyes fell upon Finn, and she weakly raised an arm in supplication to him. He leaped forward at once, sweeping an arm about her, just as she sank down. You've saved me," she breathed out, and then fell back limply, eyes dropping closed. Finn looked up from her to Cowlight. "By the Dogda," the dark warrior began. "What? She's fainted," Finn answered tersely. "Let's get her inside," slipped his other arm under her legs and lifted her easily. As if she were a child, cradling her gently, he carried her toward the central building. The rest of his men, joined by the others in the yard, trooped after him, drawn by the curiosity that shone in their captivated gazes. Ben passed through a large doorway into an interior that seemed very cool and dim. After the late afternoon glare in the yard, the central portion of the structure consisted of one large room of a circular shape. It was open to the peak of the thatched roof, nearly 3 stories above. The roof beams were supported by a number of thick wooden pillars, deeply carved with intricate designs of curling, interlacing vines and elongated, stylized birds and animals, all polished and inset with gleaming bronze. These pillars surrounded a wide fire pit with a circular stone hearth where a cheery fire now blazed. The decor of the room was simple. Woven reeds, mats covered a floor of beaten earth. Planked tables and benches formed their own circle about the fire pit. Outside these was a second ring of pillars. Wooden walls ran from them to the outer wall, like spokes, dividing the space into wedge-shaped compartments, like a pie. While movable wickerwork partitions separated each room from the large central space. On the walls above hung shields with a variety of brilliantly painted devices and weapons, whose polished iron glinted redly in the firelight. A number of men and women in small caps and aprons of white cloth were busily engaged about the fire, tending game, cooking on long spits, or slipping ingredients into an immense steaming cauldron suspended from the roof beams on iron chains round the room. Other servants, clad in tunics and trousers of dark wool, were hard at work, cleaning, laying out the plates and tankards for a meal, and setting new tapers in the many wall sconces in preparation for the coming night. All of these folk quickly gave over their labors to stare agape as Finn entered with his burden, followed by the crowd. "Garbkoden," Finn called loudly as he strode across the floor. A gray-haired man, wearing a leather apron and carrying a short, thick staff, left a group of cooks he had been haranguing and rushed to meet the fair-haired man. "Yes, my captain," he asked crisply, drawing his angular form stiffly up. Though his sharp features were as expressionless as stone, a flicker of puzzlement did show in his eyes as they swept over the unconscious girl. "Have my quarters opened, in my bed made ready," Finn ordered. "I'll put her there." Without a word of question, the man went swiftly into action. That's right. He signaled to a pair of nearby serving men and led the way across the room at a jog. They reached the far side of the central space, stopping before the wickerwork partition that set off the outer segment there. At the direction at Garbkronen, the two servants lifted the movable wall easily and shifted it aside, creating a wide entrance to the chamber beyond. The three then moved inside. The gray-haired man threw open the shutters of a window in the outer wall, flooding the room with the golden evening light. His helpers quickly smoothed the covering of furs and blankets upon a low pallet. They drew respectfully back as Finn entered with the girl. He crossed to the bed, bent down, and eased her slowly onto the soft mound of covers. For a moment he lingered there, his arms still beneath the slender form, his face very close to hers. His eyes were minutely searching that young face. Something there seeming to hold him, keeping him from releasing her. "Finn," Cowlight said from the doorway, as if the voice had awakened him from some dream. Finn started, shaking his head. Then, but with clear reluctance, he slid his arms gently out, stood up, and drew away from her. Cowlight and the others from the yard, their ranks now much swelled by those from the hall, had crowded in behind Finn, jamming the opening to the chamber, to stare wide-eyed at the figure. Save for Cowlight, they all appeared to be as totally captivated by her as was Finn. There was good reason for that. She was of a most rare beauty. Her looks were fine, fair, and fragile, as a spring blossom in its first flush of blooming. Her skin was smooth and white and seemed almost luminescent in the beam of sunlight that fell upon her and sparked her streaming hair to golden flame. "Get out of my way now, you great herd of wolves," came a voice high, clear, but edged with irritation. "Let me through! What's happening?" The people of the crowd shifted suddenly, and from the dense forest of their legs emerged a small figure. It was of the size and light build of a boy of 10. But its face was that of a man of mature years. The features were small and sharp, tapering from a wide forehead topped with bushy brown hair to a neat, pointed chin. He stopped when he had gotten free of the crowd and had a clear view. A shrewd, carefully calculated gaze took in Finn and the young woman on the bed, and his expression of irritation changed to one of keen interest. "Oh, well," he said, "I see what all the great rush in here is about now. And who is this, then?" "I don't know, my little nut," Finn told him. "She followed us back here from the hunt in the shape of a fawn. When she came inside the walls of Amhuin, she transformed into this." "A fawn, you say?" Said the little man. "And she transformed?" He moved closer to the bed to peer at her, his eyes bright with an even greater fascination. "So, the she are in this somehow, are they not?" "They must be," Finn said, "but I don't know how. She's a lovely one." "Sure she is that," the other exclaimed in open admiration. "She's fairly shining with it. Very dangerous beauty, so she has." "Dangerous," Finn repeated, clearly surprised by this odd choice of terms. "What do you do?" But he was interrupted. The girl stirred, moaning softly. Her eyes fluttered and then slowly opened, green eyes intense and deep as the summer meadows. They were now not the dark eyes of the fawn. They stared upward a moment as if focusing, then shifted, falling upon Finn, her smooth brow furrowed in a worried frown. Finn swiftly moved forward again, kneeling beside her. "There's nothing to fear," he assured her gently. "You're safe here." She lifted a small, slim hand and ran her fingers along the firm line of his jaw. Her troubled look vanished, replaced by one of joy. "Oh, you are real?" she said in a tone of relief. I was afraid that I had dreamed." "Who are you?" Finn asked, taking the hand and holding it in his own. "Why was the appearance of a fawn on you?" "It was a curse," she answered. "It was put upon me for refusing the love of a druid of the She. An evil man he is, called Fear Dorsh. Let's call him Fear Douche." Finn exchanged a quick glance with the little man standing beside him, whose pursed lips and cocked eye brow announced that the name was both a familiar and impressive one. "My own name is Sab," she went on. "It is 3 years now that I have lived the life of a wild deer in a far part of Ireland. But finally a man who served the Druid took pity on me. He helped me to escape and showed me the way here." "Why here?" asked Finn. "He told me that if I could come within the fortress upon Dún Alm Huin, the Druid would have no more power over me. My enchantment would be broken. He showed me where you hunted and told me I must lead the hunt until no one but you and those 2 great hounds was still with me. He said the hounds had human wits and would not harm me, for they would know my nature to be like their own." Making this long speech was obviously worrying for her. At its conclusion, her head sank back and she breathed heavily in an exhausted way. "No more now," Finn told her. "You just rest. Your long run in your transformation must have used much of your strength. Sleep. Later, if you feel stronger, you can join us at our feast." She smiled a grateful but sleepy smile at him for that and smuggled down into the covers like a small child. Voicing a soft sigh of contentment, she closed her eyes, relaxed, and was asleep almost instantly. Finn rose and went to the window quietly, easing closed the shutters to darken the room. Then he turned to the crowd. "Be off now, the lot of you," he told them in a hushed voice. "She needs rest." He moved toward them, lifting his arms in a shooing gesture. Go. As they dispersed, he moved out of the room, shifting the partition back to the opening to a crack. "Have one of the women come to keep a watch on her," he told Garb Cronin. "When she awakes, supply any of her needs and see that she is given more proper to wear." "I will, my captain," the man assured him crisply and set off about his task. The crowd vanished by this time, and the people of the fortress had gone back to their activities. Finn looked about to find himself left with only Cowlight, Bronn, and Scalon, and the one he had called the Little Nut. The two great hounds, overlooked in the excitement about the girl, had continued to stay as close to her as possible. They had planted themselves on either side of the narrowed opening to Finn's chamber, clearly on the guard once again. "Well, lads, you've done well," he told them. "But your task is ended. She's safely here. You can go off now. Rest yourselves." Neither budged. They only sat at the strater, lifting their heads higher in a gesture of stubbornness. "All right, then," he said with a grin. "Protect her if you still feel the need." He glanced through the opening at the shadowed figure on the bed, and his voice took on a more introspective tone. "She's surely prize worth the protecting. She has something to do with the others, as I guessed," Cowlight said tersely. Finn, with an effort, tore his gaze from the girl and turned it to his friend. The dark-haired man was standing with arms folded on his chest, chin out, and face set in stern lines. "I don't much like the idea of her being here," he went on in a disapproving tone. "She'll bring trouble. We can't turn down her plea for help, Cowlight," Finn told him reasonably. "She came here for sanctuary. She do not interfere in our affairs or give help to us freely." The others returned obstinately. "I say, we should act in the same way toward them. I don't believe that this girl of the she herself," the little man put in. "I don't feel any of their aura about her." "And how many times have you been wrong before, small one?" Cowlight said derisively. "And nearly gotten us all killed because of it. Not so often as yourself, you great arrogant lout," the little nut fired back. "Quiet the both of you," Finn said. "She or not, she will not be turned away from here." He fixed a meaningful gaze on Cowlight. "She'll be welcomed here, and there'll be no more said of it." To this, the dark-haired man gave no reply, but the look he returned to his comrade was still smoldering with unhidden discontent. Chapter 4, Visitation, or a Visitation. The great hall of Amhuin was filled with light and life. The fire blazed high, and with the many tapers gave the white-walled room a pleasant glow. The lively tunes of a dozen musicians filled the air, mingling with the talk and laughter of the feasting assembly. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop, and I'll pick up there, chapter 4, in the next episode, baby. Come on, yeah. I'm going to play a little guitar, take a short break. Hail. Yep, that's right. So I'm doing this before St. Patrick's Day. I don't call it that. I call it Cultural Heritage Day. Remember, freedom. Yeah. I'm serious. Light my tobacco pipe. That's right. Fire. Oh, yeah. Am I written up or fired yet? Nope. Hired myself. Oh, shit. For free. Oh, God. I'm a bit tired, but you know what? I'm still here. Let me see. Take this back. Boom. I kind of had this unsaid rule for a while, and that was don't tune live. You know why? People get annoyed and then they leave. But if I'm careful and I'm not too crazy, then it's all right. And you know what's funny too? Nothing is ever perfectly in tune. Now, you do a computer program. You know what? That takes away all the natural flares. That's why I couldn't do the preamp. I'm like, it takes away my creativity. God damn it, everything's in a box and I think in circles. I can't do it. You know, you go freestyle as long as I have. It's all you know. I'm serious. But that gives you an advantage in that you're not like, well, according to this rule, I can't do that. And I'm like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, like with tuning, you want to experiment, right? And I'm looking at what is in harmony with the earth, okay? And if a standard A is not in tune, what effect does that have inside my body when I listen to music? Okay. What does that do to my brain waves? Okay. So if I have a Verdes A, and that is in 432 hertz frequency versus an A that is standard, right? And this happened like when in the decline of folk music in America, all right? The family band. That's, you look at this changing of the frequency, get everybody freaked out, right? You got Elvis, the Beatles. Let's tune in 440. Oh yeah. Now that's Elvis too. Oh shit. Now I'm going deep. See, Elvis was into the like folk gospel shit, whatever. That's what he liked. But the labels dressed him up like a big pretty boy, right? Because they knew that would sell. So get the crowd excited, make more money. Ah, shit. Now you're figuring shit out. So freak the crowd out, give them shitty tuning, and what's that look like? Okay, cymatics. A 440A looks like a jumbled up mess of goddamn fucking wasps. Now, what does a 432 hertz frequency pattern look like in physical form? Notes have form physically. Sound creates form. Okay, anyway, sound creates light. Now, it looks like a sun pattern. Now, what's the difference? 8. What's the resonant frequency of the earth? Well, it's real close to 8 hertz. Interesting. There's no way the average person would even realize that. No, the musicians would notice. They'd be like, well, what? We can't tune in this shit anymore? What? Because the jazz musicians, they were tuning in all these alternate frequencies, right? And then you had the 12 strings, and they were dropped in tuning. Why? They weren't that strong. You could ruin the instrument if you tightened it too much, right? So, what's the effect? Get everybody sped up. Okay, think of it like a beehive, all right? And depending on the beat of the music, it's going to determine how fast the bees dance. Same concept of all those people dancing themselves to death in that book, right? They're so focused on being in the game, they don't even notice what's up at all, that the game is actually burning them out, right? They're puppets versus freedom, right? So currently, the fawn, who was a young lady, gained her freedom. But she didn't do it through aggression. She did it through love. So the person that set her free gave an act of love. That's pure. All right. So that allowed her to escape and then transform back to human. So what's the key? You mean you kind of got like a Snow White type thing, or Cinderella? Not exactly that, more Snow White. Okay, similar. That true love transforms her into her true form. Though the other form was still beautiful, it was not her true form. So run, freedom, run for the stronghold, said. All she wanted was freedom. Beware. Beware the web of fear. For true-hearted love set you free to say, to say, to say. He was true-hearted all the way, I told you anyway. Easy on the way, you know, I a lot to do. You know, you never know. Might not be what you think. You might have to trust what you feel. Intention, intuition. Discern your way. Fall on the wayside. Easy on the way, you know. Run for freedom, run for the stronghold. Said, easy on your way, you better know. True-hearted all the way or nothing at all. True-hearted all the way or nothing at all. Easy on the way, it's a long way home. Said, hearth and home, stand around the fire. Family acts one way, and a cruel overlord acts another way. Get the Druid on the life side, and the Druid on the dark side. He's got fear in his pocket like a weapon ready to go. Better know who you are. Better know who you are. When they come calling to call your God, sure you will stand by love. Stand, 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 stand by love. Stand by love. Stand by love. Easy on the way, you know. Stand by love. Easy on the way. Said. Easy on the way. Better rest your head if you wanna come to the party later. We'd be waiting on you for the feast. Don't say. Easy on the way. Take care. Circle round. Beware. And be easy. Listen to your heart and the flame that burns. Grandmother and grandfather do circle round and bless what is sacred in the heart that is our folk, living memory, remedy, and flame. Tree, well, and flame. Breathe easy. Easy on the way, you know. It's on. Easy on the way. Easy on the way. You know. As it goes. Easy on the way, they said. I know it's trouble on the breeze as it goes. Easy on the way. Easy on the way.